Special counsel's investigation. Joining me now to discuss is Congressman Chris Stewart. He's a Republican from Utah, also a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks for taking the time this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
So first I want to get your view on this reporting that Michael Flynn, in the midst of the special counsel's investigation, gets a message from the president's personal lawyer, John Dowd, seeming to indicate that the president would not be happy or would be upset if he were to cooperate with the special counsel. And I wonder if you view that kind of communication as acceptable.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, this voicemail apparently conveyed the affection and the good feelings of the president still towards Mr. Flynn. I'm running out of analogies on this dead horse. This dead horse isn't almost dead. This head that is all the way dead. Look, the special counsel...
Why isn't that a legitimate question if the president... I know you've declared it dead and the president has declared it dead, but this is new information in addition to other evidence presented by the special counsel of possible obstruction of justice. Granted, he did not make a call as to whether there was, but it's new information about the president's personal attorney going to Michael Flynn's attorney as he's about to testify before the special counsel and saying, may not be a good idea for you to do so. I mean, if you were involved in a legal proceeding, would you want that kind of interference?
Well, here's the thing. It's not new information to Mr. Mueller. He had this, and as you said, he chose not... Yes, but Mr. Mueller was the one making the decision on this, and in taking its entirety, he did not choose to indict on anything. And you know, there's one thing that I think that you and I agree on, and that is in America, there's a presumption of innocence. And you can't turn it on its head and say you have to prove that you're innocent. You have to prove that someone is guilty, and Mr. Mueller didn't come up with any proof of that. And I know
he didn't make a decision. As you know, Mueller said in very explicit terms that he did not exonerate the president. It was Bill Barr, the president's appointee as Attorney General, who made the decision. I wonder on that question, do you think Mueller whiffed here, that he should have made a decision?
No, you said something that he does exactly what I said. You turn it on his head. You said he didn't exonerate. It wasn't his job to exonerate. You have to bring charges and prove someone is guilty. Someone doesn't have to prove they're innocent, and Mr. Mueller didn't do that. He didn't bring charges. He said there wasn't sufficient evidence to bring charges.
Okay, so I'm asking you, are you comfortable with a sitting president of the United States sending a message through his attorney to a witness to an ongoing investigation that the president would take offense or would not be happy if that witness cooperated with the special counsel? Do you consider that acceptable from a U.S. president?
Here's what I'm comfortable with. I have always supported Mr. Mueller's investigation. I have always said he's a fair, impartial, professional. He didn't bring charges. Look, there's going to be dozens and dozens of these types of things that come out. And I mean, maybe hundreds. And each one of those you can grab and say, but look at this, but look at this. But you're not seeing the exculpatory information. You're not seeing the other side. Mr. Mueller saw both sides, and he chose not to bring charges. So we can, as I said, started out saying, we can find another horse and go beat it, but the evidence is pretty clear. And I think Mr. Mueller made the right decision.
To be clear, the special counsel came up with 12 instances of possible obstruction of justice. But you're right, he did not make a decision. He left that to the Attorney General. I want to ask you about Iran, because we've gone in the span of 2 weeks from this administration raising an alarm about potential Iranian military activity, the deployment of an additional carrier group to the Persian Gulf, discussion of this intelligence indicating missiles placed on boats by Iran, to the president now saying, seeming to dial back his own advisors on this, that he does not want to go to war. Is it clear to you, and can you explain to your constituents today, what is the Trump administration policy regarding Iran?
First, thank you for asking this question, and I really mean that. As a member of the House Intelligence Committee, there's a lot of important issues that we would like to talk about, and this is one of them. And I think there's a couple things that took place here. One of them is that we clearly had evidence, and have evidence now, that is very concerning to the President, the administration, National Security Council, and those of us who work in national security. Some of that has been talked about a little bit, although not much of it has. And the President felt like he had to make a defensive posture. He had to make a statement towards Iran. Don't carry forward with some of these plans we think you're considering, or there will be a price to pay. But then the second thing that happened was some of the reporting, for example, of saying he was considering sending 120,000 troops to the region. Look, that's what the military does. I was an Air Force pilot. We considered everything. The one thing you don't want to do is have the president say, well, what about this? And for the Pentagon to say, well, you know, we've never thought about that. They want to think about everything. But I think some of that reporting exaggerated the urgency, and I think the president wanted to dial it back a little bit. I think he wanted to assure the American people we're not on the cusp of war with Iran, because I don't think that we are.
But it wasn't the reporting. I mean, these were public comments from Trump administration officials who were describing the threat from Iran in dire terms and diverting an entire carrier strike group to the region. I mean, what's the misunderstanding about the president's decision making on this?
Well, I wasn't indicating the reporting wasn't accurate or that wasn't the key. I mean, these were comments, but it was only one of probably dozens and dozens of alternatives that were being considered. And it was appropriate to send a carrier strike group. Again, that is sending the message. That's putting yourself in a good defensive posture. But I think a lot of people assumed, oh man, we're about to go to war with Iran, and why are we doing that? And I think the administration just wanted to, again, temper down some of those emotions. And by the way, to your last point, this is very common. In fact, this is good that you have it within the administration, people presenting different views. People may be a little more hawkish, some people a little more dovish, and then the president has to decide between those views. But it's good to have the debate.
Understood. And you're right. As you say, the Pentagon is designed, part of its job is to present options from this end of the spectrum to this end. Congressman Stewart, it's always good to have you on the program. We hope you have a nice weekend.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor.